Hello and welcome to Fine is a four-letter word. My guest today, Stephany Ann. Welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you so much for having me, Lori.
Yeah, we are in for a really good conversation today. I can feel it. I know from when we talked earlier, this is going to be good. Let's start off with what were the values and beliefs that you were raised with that
So,
contributed you to becoming who you did as an early adult and then who you are now?
yeah, I was raised in a very healthy family. I have three other sisters, and I was kind of the athlete, the bookworm, the nerd. Always got good grades in school. And my parents always embraced my individuality. And at a young age, I started traveling and traveled all over the world. And I remember when I was 18, my mom was like, I really just had to release you and let you go because you were just going to do what you were going to do.
Mm.
And I did. I spent 5 years backpacking around the world. I went to college. I got a full ride to college. I went to law school. I did all these incredible things. And so, I think some of my family values of family and being kind, but also being unique and embracing that individuality is something that my parents taught me.
Yeah. Where in the sibling order did you fall?
So I'm number two,
Okay.
but I'm very much a first child personality.
Okay. Okay. I was just curious since yeah. Um, okay. And then, once you got done traveling the world,
Mhm.
what did you do? Did you like settle down? Did you have people while you were doing that? Did you have people asking you like, so when are you going to settle down? When are you going to come home? When
Oh,
are you going to find a place?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. When are you going to get married? Blah, blah, blah. And I was just always very driven, always very career focused, always very like, these are my goals. I've always wanted to do what I've wanted to do for a very long time. And so I was very focused
Hmm.
on my goals.
Okay. So, yeah,
Yeah.
the reason I was asking that question is because, I'm living nomad life right now, and people are asking
Ah,
me that, like, "Well, when are you going to find somewhere you want to stay, like, and actually live?" Or when are you going to stop doing this kind of lifestyle? And I'm like, I don't know. When I get tired of it and I stop, that's when
yeah.
I stop. Like, I don't have an answer right now.
Yeah, right. And I my kids, I asked them a couple months ago, I'm like, we can go and do whatever we want.
Hmm.
What do you guys want to do? Where do you want to go? And they both said, Mom, let's go to Portugal. And so we've been studying Portuguese. I'm on like my 115-day streak now.
Oh, wow.
And I used to live in Europe. And so I'm familiar with Europe. I've never been to Portugal. So it's all new and exciting. But it's like, why not?
Yeah.
Why
Yeah.
not? Why not?
Absolutely. I love that. I Portugal's on my short list of places I want to go because I
Yes.
haven't been there either. I did a semester abroad and I traveled around Europe, but Portugal, I didn't get to Portugal. And actually, I was staying with a friend for a couple of days last month, and her daughter and her daughter's fiance were in town. They live in Portugal.
Oh, no way. Well,
Yeah.
right after COVID, Portugal opened its doors and invited like a an invitation for the world to come and settle there.
Yeah.
And so
Super
there's
cool.
like so many perks for us expats to go over there.
Yeah, very cool. Okay, so you did come back and chose to like quote unquote settle down, or what happened?
Yeah, so I came back. I was actually living in South Africa. I studied down there for a while and then backpacked around some of the countries in Africa and came home. I missed all the deadlines for this one university I wanted to go to, but I was like, let me just sit down and get a talk with admissions and tell them why I need to go there and why they need to give me a full ride. And I did. And they gave it to me.
What?
And yeah, yeah, right.
Okay.
Um,
This is a good lesson in uh asking for what you want and expecting to get it.
Yeah, absolutely. Because admissions were closed. They were done. But I was like, I fit the motto. My lifestyle is the motto of the university. This
Mm-hmm.
is why you want me and why you need to give me money to go here because I've been, traveling for 5 years. Um, so yeah, so back before I met my husband, my life was very aligned. I was
Mm-hmm.
doing exactly what I wanted to do. I was going 100% in the direction I wanted to go and following my passions. And then I meet my first husband, and he was kind of the first real relationship I had. And in the beginning, it was wonderful. It
Mm-hmm.
was great. He was kind, he was loving. It's that first phase of the idealization phase with when you're with a narcissist. Like, it was great. I didn't know at the time he was who he was.
Right.
I didn't learn that until I went to law school.
Well, I think everybody is, whether you're with a narcissist or not, and we'll get into that more in a moment. That idealization phase in the beginning, like you have this story in your head of who this person is, and
Hmm.
and because it's who you want them to be.
Yeah, well, and in the beginning, they become the person you want them to be.
Mm-hmm.
They mirror your values, they mirror your hobbies, they mirror everything about you. And so when they start saying like, "Oh, you're my soulmate, you're this and that, you're my best friend, blah blah blah," it's like, well, yeah, that resonates.
Mm-hmm. Of course, like who doesn't want to hear that?
Yeah, I've just fallen in love with me.
Yeah. Okay.
Is what it is.
Yeah. Okay. Then what happened when you went to law school?
So when I went to law school, all my focus and attention was no longer on him.
Mm.
Before you have kids, before you're doing everything, it's you can focus all your attention on this person, because one of the basic fundamental needs with a narcissist is that they need that constant admiration, adoration, that constant like fawning all over them. They want all of your energy, time, focus, everything.
Mm.
But now all of that went to law school. Law school is freaking hard.
Yes.
It
It's
is
my
it
turn.
is your life. You don't have a life outside of law school. And so when I started law school, it became my life. You're taking 5 classes. That's 3-hour lectures every day, reading 500 to 600 pages and books and briefing cases and showing up, because you have to be prepared when you get there to stand up in like the Socratic
Mm-hmm.
method.
Right.
And so all my attention was now not on him. He was not my number one priority. And he knew that this going to law school was part of my goal and what I was going to do. And so he told me within like the first couple of weeks of starting, he's like, "I'm tired of hearing you talking about the law. I'm not your study buddy. I don't want to hear anything about it. Just leave me out of it. I don't want to go hang out with all your law school friends." Like, he was very matter of fact.
Mm-hmm.
And I just was like, wow, I mean, that's super hurtful, right?
Yeah.
It's like, I've been working so hard for this,
Yeah.
and now you don't want to be a part of this life of mine that I worked so hard to get. And then he started focusing his attention on seeking out validation and affirmations and all of that from other women. I did not know this until my third year of law school.
Mm.
He
Okay.
never came to me and said, "I'm feeling neglected. I'm feeling like, hey, we should do this or that." He never did. And so I never knew that there was a problem
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
until 3 years later, I found out about all of these emotional affairs and all this stuff that was going on. And it was devastating.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah.
And so, and that's part of when the mask comes off, they
Right.
become a different person. And for me, my first husband, he was a covert narcissist. So basically, it's like they're pillars in the community. They're wonderful. They're charming to everyone. They're involved in everything you can think of. They're the ones that are signing up to drive old women to go grocery shopping and then painting
Mm-hmm.
their house for them. And then
Uh-huh.
they come home and they are horrible people,
Wow.
miserable,
I,
horrible people.
and so did you tell anybody about this? Or did you just think
I
it's my problem? I don't know what's wrong with me, but I got to fix me. Like something like
so
I need to yeah.
yeah, so in when it first came out with all the affairs and stuff, I told his family and I told my family and I told my best friends, and I was like, I don't know what to do. And when I say I told his family, I don't think I told his parents, and I don't think I told my parents, but
Hmm.
like siblings
Okay.
and stuff. And because we both come from really good families. My parents have been married for 45 years. His parents
Hmm.
have been married for 55 years. And so, it's like, and I don't know why he love bombed me back, because I wanted to separate, but then it
Hmm.
was like, and then he wanted to, and then it was just, it was a very confusing time. Here we are, we're living in Michigan. We don't have any family over there, and it was just so confusing. And for me, I didn't know what his behavior his behavior was so off and so different. And I was actually, I had assessments with the State Department, and that was my route, going to the State Department. And he basically told me, yeah, give everything up and have kids tomorrow or I'm out.
Wow. Okay. Um, so, so what did you do?
Well, I gave everything up and had kids.
Okay. Because you
And
believed that what he was telling you was the truth. Like did he apologize for the affairs and say, "I'm sorry, I'm never going to do it again. I want you."
it kind of, but not really, because it never stopped.
Oh.
So then it proceeded for, 10 more years of his behavior. And, at the time, I I just started focusing on being a good mom, I was doing legal stuff on the side,
Mhm.
and praying, like
Mm.
what is going on? And there was just so much gaslighting, and so much just subtle manipulation, that you don't always know what's going on, but then you just start walking on eggshells. You just start feeling miserable and like, this isn't working. But for me, it was like, we were so entangled. Now we
Yeah.
had two children, and I loved his family,
Mhm.
but you can't stay married to someone because you love their parents.
Right. So this brings up the point that I am super curious about, which is how did he become like this? Because a lot of the stories I hear about narcissists, you hear they had a terrible upbringing, their parents were, had their own issues, and it becomes kind of a self protection. Like people become that
Yeah.
way because they're protecting themselves because their childhood was so traumatic. And you're saying that his parents had a great marriage, and like were
Yes.
any of his other siblings had they have
So
narcissistic tendencies, like, oh, and just because his parents were together, also I should say, you said they were
yeah.
together for a long time, that doesn't mean they had a great relationship.
Yeah, but they do have a great relationship, and actually, his dad's a psychiatrist and all of this stuff. So another way that people do become narcissists and have that disordered personality, as a child, my first husband was diagnosed with oppositional defiant disorder. Oppositional defiant as a child can turn into narcissism, antisocial personality disorder, any of these cluster B personalities.
Mm.
So it's a precursor. And so he was a bad boy. I was a good girl. It's the good girls drawn to the bad
The
boys. I
opposite
went to
attraction.
church. I was a straight A student. All of this stuff. He got kicked out of every school he ever went to. He got shipped away to boarding school because no school would take him.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
it's like, okay, he's kind of a bad guy. He's like, oh, I like this. I'm a good Christian church girl.
Right.
Um, and so that is one of the ways as well. And so, yes, his parents are wonderful. They've modeled healthy relationships. In fact, when he divorced me, he disowned his parents because
Wow.
his parents kept the relationship with me.
Mm. Wow. And his siblings didn't have these kind of disorders, or did they?
I feel like his sister has some mental health orders.
Mhm.
His brother is very stable, but has removed himself from the drama.
Mm, okay.
if that
Which,
makes sense.
well, we sure, because if like any sane person might make that same move to protect themselves.
Yeah, so he was very good with boundaries, and his parents were good with boundaries, which is why he disowned them.
Mm-hmm.
And he actually committed suicide a couple months ago, which,
Mm,
you know,
yeah.
it can happen when you have lived a double, triple life for so long, and things start to catch up, and maybe you start to become aware, and it's a lot to unpack and to deal
Yes.
with.
Right. Because if you have to face what you have wrought, if you will, I don't know who uses that word, but I feel like, but it's perfect for this situation. If you start becoming aware of now, oh, maybe I was like maybe feeling some guilt or some shame around it, which I know
Absolutely.
is, from what I've heard. Again, I have not studied it as extensively as you have, but most narcissists, most narcissists don't do that. Like they don't have that much introspection.
Well, yeah, and this is why they're able, after the discard, they're able to just
Mm-hmm.
move on. And this is again where it's a personality disorder that is layer upon layer of protective self. So they disassociate, put a new layer on, become someone else,
Mm-hmm.
and move on. But that is the only way that you can do that.
Mm-hmm.
You have to become a different person and pretend like that didn't happen. And that's what my first husband did. He pretended like I never existed and I was never a part of his life. He just erased me.
Yeah. And so do you think that what contributed to his taking his own life was that he started to take those masks off and to see what he was doing and feel what he was
I
doing?
think so.
Yeah.
I think so.
I know it's
Yeah,
all
because
speculation
towards,
because we're not in his
yeah, I
situation.
mean, exactly. And, you know, it's that he didn't leave a note. I never talked to him for 6 years prior to all of that. But you know what's interesting is he, about 5 months before he took his life, I had separated from my second husband, and he called me. And mind you, we've never talked since the day he walked out.
Mm-hmm.
And oh, just to speak about our children. That is
Mm-hmm.
all.
Mm-hmm.
And he called me and he was crying and he's like, Stephany, I'm so sorry for everything I did to you. I was an alcoholic. I regret it. I regret leaving you now. I love you, all this stuff. Mind you, he's married. He's remarried.
Wow.
This is shit they do. And so that it's like, and then it messes with you,
Yeah, it's
because
a
it's like,
total mindset.
was that sincere? Was that honest? Like, okay, can we now have, because I was living in Florida and he was living in Oregon at the time, and the boys would spend summers with him. And so I was bringing the kids back, you know, for
Mm-hmm.
summer with him. And I was like, okay, so maybe, okay, this is what I wanted to hear 6 years ago. I
Mm-hmm.
just wanted an apology
Yeah.
because he lived in his own delusion. I never cheated. I never had an affair. What are you talking about? Okay, as you're living with another woman and we're still married.
Uh-huh.
Um, they live in their own delusions. And so I was like hopeful all over again that, okay, well, maybe we can have a relationship for the children. Like
Mm-hmm.
maybe we can actually co parent.
Yeah.
But then I show up here and it's like 1,000% different what he said. He threw all these emotions at me, all these litigation, trying to get me to lose, because I had full custody of the kids, trying to change custody, trying to do all this stuff, saying all this lies about me to the judge. And,
Mm.
you know, here he is again, a pillar in the community. He's a doctor. Yeah, I'm still a lawyer, but like it's just different.
Mm-hmm.
And so we he had the kids for the summer and he started to alienate them from me. He took their cell phones away. And I'm like, what the heck are you doing taking their phones away? They only call me. He's like, well, we've decided in our house we're not going to have cell phones. The
Mm.
kids are too young. You know, just shit like that.
Right.
And then he could only let them call me at 9:30 at night. They're falling asleep.
Right.
My 9-year-old just started crying the whole time on the phone, like, Mom, when are you going to come get us? Mom, when can we go home with you? And my 11-year-old was like, because I've told him, I'm like, the truth will come out.
Yes.
You know, the truth always comes out, and focus on that. And so my 11-year-old, every time I talk to him, he, Mom, when's the truth coming out? You said the truth is coming out. When do we get to come home with you? Why are we still here?
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, just focus on the truth and it will come out.
Man, that must have been so difficult for you to hear, to hear
It's
them
horrible.
talk, yeah, saying these things to you, asking you these questions that you don't have a specific answer. I mean, you have a specific answer, but it's not a time, there's not a specific time.
Oh yeah, and it's like my hands are tied because
Yeah.
according to our parenting plan, he gets them for the summer.
Mm-hmm.
And so and I'm like, okay, so I could file to have a custody evaluation and all this stuff, but then I just kept feeling, spirit, like divine saying, Stephanie,
Mm.
just wait,
Mm.
wait. And I kept saying over and over in my head, vindication. And I had to release them and him to the universe and just trust that the truth would come out and that I would have my vindication.
How did you do that? Because that, again, is really difficult, but but it's the only thing that we can do is trust
Exactly.
and have
Well,
faith. But what got you to the point to be able to do that?
so, I don't want to be an angry, bitter person. And I don't want to just sit here and ruminate and fuss and fume and just freak out because I could do that.
Mm-hmm.
I could lay in bed all day and do nothing
Mm-hmm.
and just, oh, my life sucks. It's shit. It's a mess, and I could do that too. And it's a choice.
Mm-hmm.
And so I made a choice that no, I am fighting this. I will have vindication. But Spirit kept saying, Stephanie, wait, let me take care of vindication because I wanted revenge. Of course I did. I had revenge thoughts. I had all this stuff. Like, what the heck are you doing? You completely betrayed me again.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I felt in my head.
Were you angry at
And,
yourself for believing even for a minute that he might have changed?
I never really got angry with me. It was more just the situation. It was
Mm-hmm.
the judge. It was the attorneys. It's all these other, it's his ex, it's his new wife. It's all this stuff like,
Mm-hmm.
what the, mm.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I just, and I've had so many wonderful things in my life. Like I was sharing in the beginning, like
Mm-hmm.
when you're in alignment, everything works out. And so I know and I trust that things do work out.
Yeah.
Um, and so I felt like there would be vindication. I needed to wait, hold off on the custody evaluation is what I kept receiving. And I just had to give it to the universe because, when we try to make plans for things to happen and we're like, okay, it has to happen like this. It has to happen like this. This is my revenge. I'm going to do all this. I'm going to get them.
Mm-hmm.
Well, maybe the universe has a different way.
Yeah.
And I want to have clean hands. There's this term in law, like clean hands means it's not me. I
Mm-hmm.
didn't make any of this happen. And so for those couple months, my mantra, my attitude statement was, this is hard, but not impossible. And I can do hard things and I will get through this. And yes, every day I reminded the
Mm-hmm.
universe of my vindication.
Yeah.
Remember you? Where's my vindication? And when my kids would, Mom, when's the truth going to come out? And it did. It only took just a couple months and he attempted suicide and then he attempted again. Well, he didn't attempt, he was successful.
Mm-hmm.
And after I sat down with the boys, even after his first attempt, there was about 2 weeks between the attempt and him taking his life. I sat down with the boys, and when I told them that their dad died, and a couple hours later, my 9-year-old comes to me and he's like, "Mom, we can go travel the world now."
Mm-hmm.
And it's because I've always um, have been honest with them about their dad's behavior.
Mm-hmm.
I stopped making excuses for him a long time ago and said, this is his behavior, this is what he's done. And I tell them in a way that they can
Right. Age
understand
appropriate.
it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I never hid anything from them.
Because they know anyway. Like on
They do.
at the spiritual level, if you're telling them one thing, but they're seeing or feeling something else, then they have that disconnect and they're like, well, can I trust myself or not?
Yeah. Well, and this is why my 11-year-old was saying, when is the truth going to come out?
Hmm.
Because he knew that the truth needed to come out.
Hmm.
Like all we can do is wait and just keep giving it to God. The truth will
Yeah.
come out.
Yeah. When we talked before in our pre show conversation, you told me a story about, about your eyes. What,
Yes.
which is a really interesting story, but I don't remember where in the chronology it falls.
Yeah. So, I had just left my second husband, and I was at my sister's house and just kind of crying out to God, like, why me? My life just felt like a mess. Like, God, why is all this stuff happening to me? Like my two ex-husbands are monsters trying to destroy my life and trying to destroy me and all of this. And, it was in that moment that I couldn't see past the pain and suffering that had engulfed my life for so long. I held on to this victim story for a long time.
Hmm.
And it was in that moment too where I did lose. I lost my eyesight. I didn't lose it in that moment. I had lost it before. So I used to live in Florida, and I was out boating with some friends. And my sunglasses broke. Well, I almost have yellow eyes. I don't even know if you can tell from here,
No,
but
I can't tell.
they're they're so light and so sensitive to the sun. And so the next morning after boating all day, I woke up and I was blind. I could not see, and it was painful even to
Oh my
open my
gosh.
eyes. So I finally made it to the eye doctor, and they said, Stephany, your eyes look like someone took sandpaper and just
Ooh.
destroyed your eyes. I couldn't see
Oh,
for 6 weeks.
wow.
And even just, I have contacts in now, but I only have been able to put contacts in just last month
Okay.
is how
Wow.
bad my eyes were. And so, in that like breakdown moment, it was like I couldn't see. I felt like the divine was saying to me, Stephany, you are not seeing your life through the right lens.
Mm.
I physically could not see. Metaphorically, metaphysically, whatever. I could not see my life because when we're stuck in this victim story,
Hmm.
you can't see the lessons. When you can't see the lessons, you don't know what needs to be healed, what needs to be released, and you'll continue to repeat these patterns.
Yeah. Um, it's so interesting how we receive lessons, how the universe
Mm.
hands lessons to us. And
Yes.
so many times physically, like makes you blind
Yes.
to give you the lesson or give you the message that you're not seeing your story through the right lens.
Yeah. And I was like, why why can't I see? This is so stupid. There
Yeah.
actually is a disorder, this temporary blindness. But then I was like trying to pull up in my head, okay, who in history lost their eyesight and what was the freaking universe trying to tell them? So
What'd you
I
find?
knew uh, not not much because I couldn't
Not much.
see. I barely could read.
I didn't do a lot of research. I couldn't see
I
anything.
could, I couldn't. And so, and
Hey
I was stuck at my
Siri.
sister's house for 6 weeks
Oh,
because I
now she
couldn't
came
see.
on. I just said, "Hey Siri." Like you could be asking, "Hey," and she just came on.
But I was thinking of like in the Bible. I don't know if you've read the Bible, but there's Paul in the Bible. His vision was taken away as well, and so I was like, okay, well, what were those lessons that he needed to learn? Because I was like, I really felt this was even before before that, like being on the bathroom floor, it was like there has to be something freaking spiritual going on here
Mm,
because who loses their eyesight? Why
yeah.
am I blind? And I'm being attacked by these men, and like they're destroying my life.
Hmm.
But when I made that shift from seeing them as monsters trying to destroy my life, and instead I said, okay, well, if they're not monsters trying to destroy my life, what if they're teachers sent here to teach me very powerful lessons? What would that look like?
Mm.
And what would those lessons be? And when I was able to make that shift, I could finally see the lessons. I could finally see what needed to be healed and released, and I could finally break these patterns of calling in these toxic, abusive men into my life.
How did you come to find out what those lessons were and to break yourself of that pattern?
Yeah, so I had to pretend, and sometimes, we before we subconsciously believe stuff, we have to just pretend.
Mhm.
And so I got a journal and I sat down. I was starting to get my eyesight back, and I'm like, okay, first husband, Josh, if you're not a monster trying to destroy my life and you are in fact a teacher that was sent here, what did I learn from 14 years of being married to you?
Mhm.
Well, and I filled a whole journal with this,
Mhm.
by the way. So I'll
Mhm.
share a couple little things. So, one of the things was boundaries. He spent 14 years having emotional affairs, and it ended with a physical affair. And there maybe have been physical affairs in there. I don't know.
Mhm.
Um, and so I can say boundaries because, I thought I had boundaries, but I was being his boundaries police. I was
Mhm.
boundaries for him. I was taking a little fence and putting it around him and calling out all the women. Don't you know he's married? You, stay away from my husband. Why am I confronting other women when my
Right.
husband is just over there having a jolly old time, probably laughing?
Mhm.
But how many of us do that?
Right.
And how many of us put cheating over here and abuse over here? No, it's psychological and emotional abuse. Yeah, he
Yeah.
wasn't physical, but
Uh-huh.
he was psychologically and emotionally abusive.
Mhm.
And so I can say, thank you, Josh, for showing me that I have to have my own boundaries and I cannot be the boundaries police for anyone.
Yes.
So then I take that and look at my second husband, my second marriage. I thought I had boundaries in that marriage. But I'll tell you what I had. I had a toddler fence or a doggy fence. Those portable fences that you can
Yes.
shift and make
Yeah.
designs and move? That
Yeah.
was my boundary that I brought into my second marriage. I have a boundary. I got a boundary. That's not a freaking boundary. So he would
Right.
push up against my little toddler fence and I'd pick it up, move it over. Okay, it's over here now. Fine. I give you that 5 feet.
That's such a
That's
good
not a
visual.
boundary.
Yeah.
And so it's like, God damn it, Stephany, learn the freaking lessons already.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
A toddler fence is not a boundary.
Right.
And so, so I just started walking through 20 years of that. The worthiness.
Mm.
Stephany, you are worthy of so much more. Why did you put up with so much shit from your first husband?
Yeah.
Well, I was afraid to get a divorce. What would everyone think? Our parents are still married. My mom's the minister of a church, like all this stuff. Like, what are people going to think of me? I've been a success my whole life and now I'm a failure.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. I'm
And
not agreeing
so,
that you were a failure. I'm agreeing with your
yeah,
self.
these are just
Yeah.
the thoughts. And it's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
no, those people aren't in my life. I mean, they're in my life, but like,
They
they're
aren't
not
you.
living my
Yeah.
life. And I can get a divorce. If a relationship is not working, I don't have to sit here and try to make something work for 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
I am worthy of so much more. And I say worthy because so many people say deserving. Well, you deserve so much better. Well, deserving means you did something to get something, right? That's the definition of deserve. You deserve that because you did this. Worthiness is innate. You are
Yes.
worthy because it is who you are.
Right.
And so looking at my second husband, I can say, thank you, Jace. Their names are Josh and Jace. They look the same. They're both Aquarius. Yeah. No more. We've broken these patterns. No Jays and no Aquarius. No, just kidding. But
Well, maybe. I mean,
and so, with my second husband as well, it's like, you are worthy of so much more. Why are you trying to stay and trying to change these men? Because they don't change. In fact, we are the ones who end up changing. We think we are changing them, but
Mm.
we are the ones who become conditioned, and we are the ones who change.
Right. And not that change is part of growth and life. And I think what you're saying is you're changing in response to who they are to morph into something that fits in their life versus growing
Exactly.
as who you are.
Yes, we change, we lose our authentic self to become someone we are not,
Hmm.
because we have to be all these people to be with a disordered personality. They're a bunch of different people themselves. And so
Hmm.
we are constantly changing to match whatever personality is showing up for that day. Who do we need to be today to make it through the day without an argument or a fight or stress?
Yeah. Again, back to walking on eggshells.
Yeah. And that's part of that, you know, their big move is the gaslighting. And I'll just explain gaslighting because I know it's a word that is just probably overused and not everyone knows what it means. But gaslighting is when you manipulate another person into doubting their perception of experiences or understanding of events. It's coercive control. It helps the abuser avoid any responsibility or blame for their behavior because they can shift it and say it didn't happen like that.
Hmm.
That's not how it happened. Or you can't take a joke. You're so fucking sensitive. Oh, you're on your period again. That's why you're acting like a fucking bitch today.
Mm. Wow.
Mm. That is gaslighting.
Yeah.
And then you internalize it and say, well, maybe I am too sensitive. Maybe, maybe I am a bitch. Maybe I am a horrible person. Maybe I am all these things. So
Right.
how do I need to change myself now? I need to go to therapy. I'm the narcissist. I have a cluster B personality now. I'm bipolar. You know, these
Yeah.
are things that they will say. And then they will say, no one will believe you. You try to leave. No one will love you the way I do
Mm.
because you're crazy. But I can handle crazy, so I can handle you.
Hmm. It's a form of brainwashing.
It is exactly brainwashing. And this is why when you leave a relationship with a narcissist, whether you are discarded or you find worthiness in yourself and you leave, there are certain ways that you have to reprogram and I call it recondition because it's very similar to, I don't know if you ever took like first year psychology
Hmm.
class.
Yeah.
You know, remember Pavlo and the
Yep.
dogs?
Yep.
So Pavlo over time conditions these dogs to salivate at the sound of a bell.
Hmm.
And it comes to the point where any bell, the dogs would just subconsciously start salivating. It's
Right.
the same when you're in a relationship with a narcissist. They condition you to live from a place of reaction. Because when you react from an emotional place, it's subconscious. We're subconsciously reacting, and
Hmm.
that is power and control for them.
Mm.
Because this is all about power and control. And so when you come out, you now have to recondition yourself. The
That
world
makes
is safe
sense.
now. You need to make sure it's safe. You have to rewire your brain. You have to rewire your thoughts. You have to get everything that's been programmed in your subconscious mind. You have to recondition all of that. And
Yeah.
this is why they say it is like being brainwashed and leaving an occult.
And why I can see how coming out of the first marriage, you would come into the second one, having not done that work, come into the
Yeah.
second one and have the same thing happen again because you didn't rewire your brain yet.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's exactly how it is. And people are like, well, why do you keep repeating these patterns? Well, it's because of that.
Hmm. Right.
And, you know, and, and because narcissists are charming, they're charismatic, they're beautiful.
Hmm.
They can work an entire room, but they only want to focus their attention on you. Who
Hmm.
doesn't want to be made special and felt seen and heard,
Right. Yeah.
right?
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. Wow. I am so grateful for your willingness to share your story and share what you've learned through through your through your lessons and your blindness and your spirituality, yeah, being open to. I mean, I'm just fascinated that, and in fascinated, I guess is the best word to use, um, by when you went through that experience of not being able to see, of turning to hey, there's got to be some spiritual thing behind this,
Mm-hmm.
because I don't
Yeah, because
think
I
a lot
couldn't
of people,
explain it.
yeah, but a lot of people wouldn't have turned that direction. And that's why I'm especially fascinated, because I agree with you that that was the cause, because once you found the answer, your eyesight came back.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And we are here. This is what I believe. We are here to live our most authentic life and to follow our passion and whatever that is.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I don't care what it is,
Yeah.
whatever that is. And I experienced that growing up. I experienced it in my early 20s as I manifested my way around the world and into a top university that I didn't pay for, like, for all
Mm-hmm.
these things. And so then you lose yourself. You lose your most authentic self because you're trying to become someone you're not. So
Mm-hmm.
you can have this relationship that you really don't want, but you don't know how to get out of it. And again, we forgot to talk about the trauma bond because so
Yeah.
you're
Yeah.
like you're stuck, but you don't know why you're addicted to this person. You don't know how to get out. It's going to be good. It's going to be bad. All these things. But the big thing is that you lose your authentic self. So how do you get that person back? How do you
Right.
refine your passions and how do you do all of that?
Yeah.
And that's how. So I think with the spiritual stuff, because that was my first life.
Yeah. Right. Right. Which makes it even more fascinating. And I we're kind of getting to the end, but about how you had that, and then you kind of let go of it for
Yeah,
this
when you
relationship, and then but now you found your way back to it.
yeah, yeah. And
Yeah.
it's so much better on the other side. But again, it's not like we are seeking out these experiences. But what's interesting? I was thinking about this the other day. When I was in my early teens, would pray a lot for wisdom.
Mm.
And I just found out I had a reading with a friend who's a psychic, and he does feng shui. I don't know how much you know about that,
Uh-huh.
but I found out that I'm a two energy, and
Okay.
it's the teacher, and it's all about wisdom and understanding. And so when I was younger, I'd pray for wisdom. Like I don't know, it was weird.
Mm-hmm.
Like who does that when you're in your teens, and I remember reading in the Bible about like King Solomon, and he was the wisest and had all this understanding and knowledge and stuff, and so I would pray that. Well, to get wisdom and understanding and knowledge, you have to go through things, you have
Yes.
to live life.
Right. Right. It's about,
Right,
it
you
goes
can't,
back to
because
that whole idea of like, be careful what you pray for,
yeah,
because you don't know how
exactly.
that lesson's going to come to you.
Exactly. And so, like, in my head, I'm like, well, I want like the big palace. I want Solomon's
Mm-hmm.
the wisest and he has all these big things. So I'm praying, like, okay, tomorrow I'm going to get that. No, the universe is going to give you exactly what you want,
Mm-hmm.
not
Yeah.
always in the way you think. And to get wisdom, you have to live,
Yeah.
you have
Right.
to go through things.
Mm-hmm.
So, they call it like trauma wisdom. It's freaking wisdom.
Right. 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 Yeah. All wisdom is, well, for the most part, all wisdom is through
Learned
some kind of
experience, or,
tribulation.
yeah.
Yeah. Stephany, what is your song that you listen to when you need a boost of energy and something to hype you up?
Yeah, so I really like that song by Sia, Unstoppable,
Mm.
because that is how I feel now. I've started to dream again. I've returned to my authentic self. I have goals. I have a vision for my life, and I feel unstoppable. And when I get on the treadmill, I put that on, listen to it. It's like, yeah, I am unstoppable.
I love it. That's such an awesome song. If someone wants to continue this conversation with you, where's the best place for them to find you?
Yeah, so right now I'm on LinkedIn and on Facebook.
Okay.
I'm trying to get some other things set up. I've because my ex-husband passed away a couple months ago. I don't work one-on-one with people. I'm not a coach.
Mm-hmm.
And I've decided to take this year off. I'm just holding space for my kids right now.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
I'm writing a series of books. Um,
Cool.
so follow me on Facebook, follow me on LinkedIn, and there's going to be some really exciting stuff coming out soon.
Cool. I will put links to those places in the show notes so people can go find you there. Thank you so much
Awesome.
for joining me today on Fine is a Four-Letter Word.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here.